Picture staring down this endless, shimmering stretch of desert asphalt.
Oh, yeah. The kind where the heat is just totally oppressive.
Right, exactly. It's so intense that the highway lines ahead of you literally look like they are, turning into liquid.
You can almost feel the dehydration just thinking about it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Now imagine traveling through that brutal, dehydrating landscape, not to hike and not to sightsee,
Right.
but specifically to hunt down municipal water fountains and fix bicycle chains in the back of a rental van.
Which is, I mean, it's just wild.
It really is. So today we are taking a deep dive into the excerpts from the Desert Drift, looking at two highly eccentric travelers, Paulo and Karina.
Yeah, and their bizarre journey from Grand Junction all the way down to the Grand Canyon.
And I need to set the record straight right out of the gate for you listening. If you are looking for like a standard travelogue about taking nice photos in front of red rocks.
Yeah, you're definitely in the wrong place.
Exactly. What we are doing today is unpacking a genuinely fascinating psychological study. We're looking at two people who use the harsh, unforgiving landscape of the American Southwest, not as a place to relax, but as its extreme backdrop to aggressively indulge their own absurd personal obsessions.
It's a complete inversion of the traditional road trip narrative, really. I mean, usually people go into the wilderness to find themselves, right?
Or to experience the sublime.
Yeah, or maybe just to escape the noise of the city. But what's so compelling about Paolo and Karina's journey is that it forces us to ask a totally different question.
Which is, why do some people actually require grueling physical tasks to escape?
Exactly. Why do they need rigid, almost obsessive fixations just to get away from their daily lives? It completely redefines our entire concept of what it means to, take a break.
And to really get into that question, we can't just look at the map of where they drive. We have to understand the deeply weird psychological engines driving the travelers themselves.
We have to look at who they actually are.
Right. So let's start with Paulo, because his baseline reality is already a paradox. On paper, the guy is a doctor.
Which is a huge deal.
It is. That title immediately implies a life of intense responsibility, focus, and, high stakes. But in reality, he treats his entire medical career like a long-running prank.
Yeah, he basically approaches his life and death profession as an elaborate joke. He acts as if he's just pretending to have a job.
Which sounds crazy, but why does he do that?
Well, it's a classic, albeit extreme, defense mechanism against occupational burnout. Think about the cognitive load of a medical practice.
Oh, it's got to be massive.
Right. A doctor operates in an open system full of uncontrollable variables. You're constantly dealing with disease progression, patient noncompliance.
Systemic hospital failures.
Exactly. And the emotional trauma. The stakes are unfathomably high, and the outcomes are rarely perfectly neat. So Paulo's response to that crushing abstract pressure is to emotionally detach.
He treats the career as a prank because accepting the reality of it is simply too heavy.
Exactly. If it's a joke, it can't hurt him.
So, if the medical career is the prank, what is his reality? Like, what actually anchors him?
His reality is the grease-stained satisfaction of fixing bicycles.
Yes. He will literally sit in the back of a rental van in the middle of this majestic desert, completely ignoring the scenery, just tinkering with bike parts.
And he is fiercely particular about how he does everything, too.
Oh, staunchly left-handed, to the point where he makes a show of steering the van exclusively with his left hand.
Yeah. And his mind isn't drifting to some tropical paradise while he does this. He is obsessively dreaming about the industrial mechanical charm of Shelby, Ohio.
Which is just so specific. But that pivot from medicine to bicycles is the key to understanding him, isn't it?
It really is. A bicycle, unlike a human body, is a closed mechanical system. It's entirely predictable.
If a chain is broken, you remove the broken link.
Right. If you need to true a wobbly rear wheel, you meticulously adjust the tension on each individual spoke until that wheel spins perfectly straight.
It's an act of enforcing absolute perfect order on a small, contained universe.
Exactly. For someone overwhelmed by the chaos of a medical practice, the appeal of a tangible, controllable task is just intoxicating. Fixing a bike offers immediate, visible satisfaction. It's a problem that can actually be solved.
I love that distinction. The scale of the problem changes everything. A failing human body is terrifying. A clicking bike hub is just a puzzle waiting for a wrench.
Yeah, it's manageable.
It actually makes me think of how people operate in their own lives. Like, for you listening, think about your own life for a second. Have you ever had a massive, intimidating project looming over you at work?
Oh, we've all been there.
Right, and instead of tackling it, you suddenly felt an intense, undeniable urge to aggressively deep clean your kitchen.
Yes, you scrub the grout with a toothbrush because you can control the grout.
Exactly. That is exactly what Paolo is doing, just on a cross-country scale.
That is a perfect analogy. You shrink your world down to a manageable size to avoid processing the overwhelming anxiety of the larger picture.
So that's Paolo. But while he shrinks his world down to cold, hard steel and grease, Karina, the person sitting right next to him in the van, is operating on a completely different psychological wavelength.
Oh, absolutely. Though she is driven by the exact same need for an anchor.
Karina is so fascinating. If Paulo is anchored by the mechanical, Karina is driven entirely by the fluid. She suffers from a profound addiction to swimming.
And we aren't talking about casually enjoying a dip in a hotel pool here.
No, her drive is described as an addiction so intense that she will actually scout public fountains in desperate, arid circumstances.
Which is a wild visual.
Picture that. You're driving through a parched, dusty desert town. The heat is radiating off the concrete, and instead of looking for an air-conditioned cafe, you're desperately scanning the plaza for a municipal water feature to submerge yourself in.
It highlights the sheer, almost comic irrationality of their location. I mean, she is a woman whose primary drive is aquatic, voluntarily traveling through one of the driest landscapes in North America.
Right. It creates this constant humming tension.
Yeah, she's always hunting. It gives her a primal mission that supersedes whatever else is happening around her.
And here is where the two of them, despite having these wildly divergent obsessions, actually find common ground.
They share one mutual affliction that acts as the glue for this entire trip.
They both hike way too much. They engage in trails that would leave normal, fit people completely bedridden for a week.
They aren't just taking scenic walks, they are actively punishing themselves.
It honestly feels like they aren't on a vacation at all. It's like they're on a grueling witness relocation program from their own responsibilities.
I love that.
They're fleeing so hard that they have to physically exhaust themselves just to maintain the disguise.
Witness relocation program is a brilliant way to phrase it because physical extremes serve a very specific neurological function here.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, when you are hiking a jagged trail in the blistering heat to the point of absolute physical exhaustion, your brain is forced to redirect resources away from the prefrontal cortex.
That's the area responsible for rumination and anxiety.
Right. Exactly. Complex planning, all that.
Yeah.
Your brain redirects all that energy and channels everything into the immediate survival of your physical body.
So when your lungs are burning and your muscles are screaming and you're desperately thirsty,
You simply do not have the cognitive bandwidth to worry about your medical practice or your life choices.
wow, the exhaustion is the tool. It silences the internal noise.
Precisely. Understanding this intense need for control and exhaustion completely changes how you view the actual geography of their trip.
It really does. Like when they finally roll into Grand Junction after that brutal drive, they arrive with this single-minded intensity.
Right. And pay attention to what they immediately do, or rather what they refuse to do.
Yeah.
Most travelers, after an exhausting drive through the shimmering heat, would immediately check into a hotel, take a cool shower, maybe find a nice restaurant, and seek relaxation. Their bodies are telling them to stop.
But not Paulo and Karina. They immediately throw themselves right into aggressive hiking.
They bypass the relaxation entirely and go straight for the physical punishment.
And then, during whatever brief downtime they allow themselves, Paulo retreats straight to the van. He is right back to fixing bikes, his eyes glazed over, completely lost in this dream of Shelby, Ohio.
It is such a vivid, bizarre image.
He has driven hundreds of miles across the country just to sit in a hot van and fixate on the very place he could have just stayed in.
It is a profound, almost aggressive rejection of his present environment. He is physically in Grand Junction, but psychologically he refuses to leave his constructed safe zone.
Yeah, he's totally insulated.
And this rejection becomes even more pronounced, almost comical, when they reach their next destination, Sedona.
Oh, Sedona is a perfect testing ground for this theory. Anyone who has been to Sedona knows it is visually stunning.
Absolutely breathtaking.
You have these massive, majestic red rocks standing like silent sentinels all around you. It's the kind of landscape that literally forces you to stop, stare, and feel small.
But Paolo and Karina largely ignore the standard tourist awe. It barely registers.
Karina gets there, and instantly, insists on an excursion to find hidden creeks. She is driven entirely by her aquatic impulses.
And Paulo spends the entire morning completely unbothered by his abandoned medical practice, opting instead to meticulously true a wobbly rear wheel on her bike.
And when they finally do venture out into that landscape, they certainly aren't strolling to take in the views.
No, they are marching on worn thin boots over jagged, ankle-twisting terrain that would deter any sensible tourist.
And they are fueling this march with nothing more than high-protein bars. It is entirely utilitarian.
Utilitarian fuel for a utilitarian march. No long lunches, no enjoying the local Southwest cuisine.
Just chewing on chalky protein bars while Paulo rambles on with these strange, highly specific stories about the industrial charm of Shelby.
Right.
But I actually have to push back on this whole dynamic for a second.
Okay, let's hear it.
If the goal is to just engage in a closed system if Paulo just wants to fix bikes and Karina just wants to find water, why drive to Sedona?
That's a fair question.
Right. Why not just stay in Ohio where there are plenty of bikes and pools? It feels like they are treating the majestic American Southwest like a glorified green screen backdrop for their own neuroses.
Yeah.
Are they just imposing their own internal worlds onto the external landscape rather than actually experiencing the place they traveled to?
That is the crucial paradox of their journey, but the location isn't arbitrary. The harsh, alien environment of Sedona is actually what makes their coping mechanisms work.
Wait, really? How does the harshness help?
Well, if Paulo stayed in Ohio, every street corner, every building would be an environmental cue reminding him of his real life, his medical practice, his responsibilities. He has to go somewhere radically different to sever that tether.
Okay, that makes sense.
But because the desert is so vast, so unforgiving, and frankly so intimidating, it threatens to overwhelm them in a new way.
So the extreme environment creates a new kind of anxiety that they have to immediately manage.
Exactly. By actively ignoring the majestic landscape, by hyper-focusing on the tension of a bicycle spoke, or desperately hunting for a hidden puddle, they're utilizing the incredible psychological comfort of routine.
Ah, I see.
When you are far from home in an intimidating environment, engaging in a highly familiar, highly controllable routine provides an emotional anchor. The harsher the environment, the tighter they cling to the routine.
It's like Karina's hunt for water is essentially acting like blinders on a carriage horse.
Oh, that's a phenomenal way to frame it.
Right. By hyper-focusing on the creek directly in front of her, she physically prevents her brain from processing the terrifying, wide-open expanse of the desert, and maybe the terrifying, wide-open expanse of her life all around her.
The blinders keep her moving forward without panicking. Paulo's rambling stories of Ohio serve the exact same function.
They are a verbal and emotional tether to a reality he understands and controls.
It's industrial, it's predictable, it has rules. And Karina's aquatic focus gives her a primal, undeniable mission. She isn't wandering aimlessly through a vast wilderness. She is on a highly specific quest for water.
It gives structure to the chaos of the open road.
Even an exhausting, physically demanding routine is deeply comforting if it is your routine.
It is a wild way to think about travel. You travel hundreds of miles into the unknown, not to discover something new, but to aggressively practice the things you already do, just with a higher degree of difficulty.
Which brings us, inevitably, to the final leg of their journey.
Because you can't drive through the desert forever without eventually hitting a wall, or in this case, a massive gorge.
The journey leads them to the ultimate desert water feature, the Colorado River sitting at the bottom of the Grand Canyon.
This is the moment where their individual obsessions perfectly converge into a massive climax.
And the approach to the canyon reveals everything about their respective mindsets. I mean, for 99% of humanity, the Grand Canyon is the destination.
It's an awe-inspiring, million-year-old geological marvel.
You stand at the rim and you reflect on the sheer scale of time, but for Karina, this vast abyss was merely an obstacle.
It was literally just a bunch of rocks in the way, preventing her from reaching the river churning at the bottom. That is peak Karina.
Yes, millions of years of sedimentary rock, very pretty. But how do I get to the actual water?
Exactly. So to get to the water, they signed up for a multi-day whitewater rafting tour.
And here we get this incredible, revealing detail about Paulo. He is filling out the registration form, signing away his life, and accepting the liability of this incredibly dangerous, grueling excursion. And he makes a point of signing it with his left hand.
It's so funny.
As he does this, he decides that this terrifying plunge into the rapids is perfectly adequate for his time off.
Again, his medical career is the prank. The dangerous rapids are the reality.
Right.
That left-handed signature is so telling. It is a subtle yet profound reminder of his rigid adherence to his own internal rules. Even at the precipice of surrendering total physical control to the mighty Colorado River, he insists on maintaining his highly specific, self-imposed identity.
He is enforcing his quirky rules right up to the edge of the cliff.
So they push off into the churning river, and reality finally settles in. They are miles away from the quiet, predictable streets of Ohio.
They are leagues away from any hospital, any medical charts, any patients.
They are in the absolute thick of it. And as the first set of major rapids approaches, we get this brilliant split-screen moment of the two of them reacting.
Yeah, the contrast is amazing.
Karina braces for the plunge, the water is roaring, and her eyes are scanning the horizon, looking beyond the danger for the next deep, inviting pool. She is entirely in her element.
But then you look at Paulo.
Right. Paulo tightens his grip on his paddle, physically bracing for the impact of the water. But his mind isn't on the river at all.
No, his mind drifts back to the rhythmic, metallic clicking of a bicycle chain.
It's such an ironic image. Even in the middle of churning whitewater rapids, with freezing water splashing in his face and the raft tossing around, Paulo is mentally sitting in a garage, tuning up a 10-speed.
It genuinely makes you wonder, do they ever actually experience where they are?
Or are their psychological blinders so thick that they are completely insulated from the world?
This raises a fundamental question about the nature of experience itself. From a strictly psychological standpoint, the river is the perfect, necessary culmination of this trip for both of them, even if they're experiencing it in entirely different ways.
Well, for Karina, the payoff is obvious. She finally gets her total aquatic immersion.
She has spent the entire trip hunting for meager fountains and hidden creeks in the dust, and now she is literally riding a massive torrent of water. She has achieved her ultimate goal.
But wait, Paulo hasn't achieved his goal. He isn't fixing a bike. He is holding a paddle trying not to drown. How is this the culmination for him?
Because what Paulo is ultimately seeking isn't actually bicycle repair, it is total detachment. By placing himself in an environment so loud, so chaotic, and so physically demanding, he is forced to be completely severed from the medical practice he is fleeing.
He is so far removed from the career he treats as a prank that he is sitting in a raft at the bottom of the Grand Canyon.
But here is the deeper mechanism at play. The chaotic, churning rapids perfectly mirror the internal intensity both of them have been carrying this whole time.
The violence of the water matches their internal frequency.
What this journey proves is that for Paulo and Karina, peace is absolutely not found in stillness.
Because stillness is dangerous.
Stillness would force them to sit quietly with their thoughts and process the very things they are running from. For them, peace is found in extreme motion.
Wow, peace is found in extreme motion. That completely redefines their entire trip. The rhythmic clicking of a bike chain, the grueling miles on the hiking trail, the roaring of the rapids, it is all just a highly engineered white noise machine designed to drown out the pressure of their real lives.
Precisely. They aren't missing out on the trip by being obsessed. The obsession is the trip.
The physical journey across the desert was always secondary to the intense psychological maintenance they were performing on themselves.
The landscape was just the required catalyst.
Which brings us back to you listening to this right now. We started by saying this wasn't your typical relaxing travelogue. I think today's deep dive into the desert drift proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that taking a break doesn't always mean resting.
No, definitely not. Sitting on a beach with a cocktail isn't the universal cure for human burnout.
Sometimes taking a break means aggressively indulging our strangest, most specific quirks. It means pushing ourselves to physical and mental extremes just to remember who we are outside of our professional labels.
Paulo refuses to just be a doctor. He demands to be a left-handed bicycle mechanic who dreams of Ohio.
And Karina refuses to just be a tourist. She is an aquatic hunter.
They stripped away all the societal expectations of what a vacation is supposed to look like. The relaxation, the sightseeing, the nice dinners, and entirely centered their own eccentricities.
It is a bizarre, exhausting, and physically punishing way to travel. But for their specific psychological makeup, it is clearly the only way they know how to survive.
It really is.
And I want to leave you with this final idea to mull over the next time you find yourself packing your bags for a trip.
It's a good one to think about.
Consider how Paulo and Karina's grand adventure is defined almost entirely by what they actively choose to ignore. Paulo completely ignores his life-and-death medical practice in favor of the simple, greasy reality of a bike chain.
And Karina completely ignores the vast, awe-inspiring, million-year-old desert canyons just to hunt for the next pool of water.
It raises a fascinating question for your own life. When you travel to a new place, when you step out of your front door and head into the wider world, are you actually exploring the unknown? Or are you just looking for a more exotic backdrop to aggressively practice your own deeply ingrained habits?